This is Sybert signing into Kane's Wrath on the map Vista Valley, up in the northern position as our green black hand. This is Death Sentence. And in the bottom right corner, his opponent is going to be, as the pink Steel Talons, Steve Nash, number 13, aka Phoenix, or whatever other bird-related smurf he would like to be at this point. I don't know if we'll call him Phoenix. That seems to be his name lately. Maybe I'll refer to him as Steve Nash. I'll try to call him Phoenix. But if I do say Steve Nash, I'm talking about the guy in the pink, not the guy in the green. Just as far as I know, Death Sentence doesn't really smurf very much. So actually that keeps it nice and easy. Now, Vista Valley, one of those maps that I personally like a fair bit. I know when about the time that it first came out and was first actually officially released, I didn't play any beta versions of it. I had quite a few good games on this map, and by good I mean relatively good games with Spartacus. So I've got some fond memories of this map. I do believe in this version. Yeah, okay, so I think the tib spike, the little area around the tib spikes has been changed a little bit, and there was a slightly different version that had some different changes to it or something. I don't quite remember what all of the details are. At any rate, Black Hand versus Steel Talons, not something that we see very often. Also not something we see very often is a rush to Orcas. Coming out against Black Hand. Oh, this is actually going to be a double aggressive opener from both of these players. So we do have Flame Reckoner versus Orcas. Now, if the Orcas actually do, well, the Orcas don't have to spot this, of course. It just has to be spotted by a rifleman squad that's somewhere out on the map. If they end up spotting this Reckoner early enough, then the Orcas can shut down the Reckoner really quite easily. They'll have a harder time actually killing off the Black Hand squads inside, but Watchtowers are fairly good at that. And they're going to end up flying pretty much right over this Reckoner. They're going to try to avoid it, but of course taking down this Reckoner is going to be very important. And about this time, Death Sentence is going to know, oh, hey, there's an almost Orca rush that's going to be coming my way. He manages to eject out both of the Black Hand squads quite nicely, but now it's going to turn into a little bit of a micro tournament between these two players to see who can avoid getting crushed and who can actually do some crushing. Watchtower most likely on the way, but with this Orca rush and his one Harvester being off the line, Steve Nash doesn't really have all that much going for him. He really doesn't have that much money to spend. Manages to get down a Watchtower, is going to be able to get out that defense against the Black Hand, and now of course he does have Orcas streaming out across the map. If they can pick off a couple of Harvesters, that probably will be worth it. Of course, Death Sentence is a little bit farther behind in his eco than he otherwise would have been. Ooh, drops some rockets on one of the refineries instead of using it on units or Harvesters. And in this case, one Harvester will go down. A couple of more Harvesters will take a couple more shots, but I don't think they actually have enough rockets to finish them off. And Orca Strike will be getting called in onto Death Sentence, and he will have to deal with that. But, well, not quite. I was about to say the Black Hand squads have been dealt with. They haven't quite been finished off, and they could actually jump inside that foxhole if they really wanted to. Make them a little bit more difficult to evacuate from that area. Orca Strike going to be coming back in, but it's a complete miss. And now Bike's going to be on the way for Death Sentence. He's going to be going a little bit of Harvester hunting himself. Bikes will be dealt with relatively well by, well, a Watchtower and a combination of a few Orca rockets. Of course, Orcas, if you're not careful, will massively overkill Bikes. And if you're also not careful, Orcas will just stack up and take insane amounts of damage from Bikes. Double War Factory currently out on the field for Death Sentence, moving his MCV towards that expansion. And the Orcas, well, they're going to be taking a couple of shots here, but they will be able to clean up the majority of the Bikes. He can't really afford to lose too many Orcas in this position. Does lose one Orca. He's trading out for quite a few Bikes, so that might actually be cost effective, but really, you never really want to be trading out Orcas against Bikes. In this case, pretty much all of the Bikes are gone. Third Harvester just now going to be popping out for Phoenix, but he doesn't have that second refinery just yet, so it's going to be slightly inefficient. While we do have a nice Harvester ratio for Death Sentence, he's got his MCB unpacked, not building anything, not actually taking advantage of that natural expansion. And of course, he's going to have to be careful about actually harvesting up and saturating that natural expansion, because there are still Orcas out on the field, which could be harvester hunting at any location that they choose. And who knows, they may very well just choose over here, but still, no refinery has been started. Orca's going to be splitting off a little bit there, might be looking for transferring harvesters. A lot of bikes being produced by Death Sentence, now going to be switching at least a little bit into the buggies. One Orca does get cleaned up quite nicely there. Another couple of Orcas may end up going down as well. Nope, they're trying to sneak around the backside of the base. Going to be calling in another Orca strike, but at least one harvester will go down. Nice splitting of the rockets will allow the Orcas to do maximum damage before getting cleaned up. And once again, it looks like that Orca strike will end up whiffing. So I think only 2 harvesters going down to those basically 4 Orcas, but quite a few bikes ended up being killed as well, which is something. Although it's certainly not the kills that you want if you're the Steel Talons player in this situation. You don't want to be killing just bikes with your Orcas. Bikes won't necessarily trade very well against Titans depending on the angle. And of course, against fair few bikes, then the Titans will be able to deal with them. But 3 Titans now out. Of course, they can target over the buildings. And with that war factory there, they will be able to go for some repairs. MCV now on the move from Phoenix, going to be heading a little bit for the unusual location of an expansion. Not going to be heading towards his natural expansion field. Instead, just going to be kind of turning this, I guess, into a bit of a base push, as the tip spike going to be targeted down by Death Sentence. He wants to eliminate Phoenix from having that extra bit of eco. And just going to be finally establishing those first couple of refineries at his natural expansion as Death Sentence. He still doesn't quite have an idea about this MCV. He could have targeted down with the bikes and buggies, or at least done some pretty hefty damage if he would have known that it was on the move. Does have to worry about facing the Titans, but if there's only 3 Titans here to defend it, this big swarm of bike buggy should be able to overwhelm that. Death Sentence, dropping down dual racks onto the front line, is going to be able to start putting out a bit of hurt on this Conyard. Should be also dropping a secret shrine somewhere behind this, potentially to get himself out some black disciples to get that upgrade rolling. Laser fence going to be going down. Titans going to be getting targeted down as they're just kind of walking one at a time into this engagement, which isn't quite ideal. There's not a lot of Titans out on the field, but if they're able to actually get some shots off while the watchtowers are kind of tanking the defense, that'll help them actually deal with this army. But in a straight-up fight, of course, rocket troopers do pretty well versus Titans. Death Sentence starting to actually walk forward with some of his units, dropping in additional racks just to absorb a couple of shots and allow the watchtower to get off some damage against these units. Behind this, Death Sentence is pretty much out of Tiberium. He really needs to secure this field and get his eco rolling for the mid part of the game. Titans going to be getting pulled back, and once again, watchtowers buying a fair bit of time on the front lines, but Scorpion tanks are finally being mixed into the composition. The bike buggy in kind of the northern part of the map, going to be skating on by, could be going for a bit of a counterattack at the more potentially open main base of Steve Nash. Not sure that that Black Disciple upgrade is going to be here in time. Yes, it is. He's actually getting Purifying Flame as well. Kind of surprising. Not that you see it that often, as Bike Buggy going to be descending into the main base of Steve Nash. Phoenix going to be losing at least one Harvester. May end up losing a couple more, but he's going to have to deal with 4 Titans. No 5 Titans here on the back end. And this MCV could start to get overwhelmed. Not that this is a lot of flame units actually onto the front lines, able to take down watchtowers, barracks, and infantry units rather quickly. 3 Titans going to be able to deal with the Scorpion tanks, sure, but can they deal with double racks production? Well, actually, they should be able to over time with the help of the watchtowers, just because there's not a whole lot of units actually coming out. But does Phoenix actually have enough to produce constant watchtowers? Because he needs to be dropping them down at a slightly faster pace than he is. Otherwise, his MCV will simply be overwhelmed. Rifleman squad's going to be produced to try to help deal with some of these Black Hand squads and the rocket troopers. But the first couple of Titans going to be stepping forward, and they are going to be stepping into a line of rockets as they just get annihilated. And this has bought a bit more time for Phoenix to get out of here a couple of more Rifleman squads, which, you know, that AP ammo is pretty darn good. Some focus fire with the help of the watchtower is going to help him to eat away at these units, but it's not gonna be enough. I think this MCV is pretty much doomed at this point, as it will go down. And now this infantry has pretty much done its job. They can't quite deal with the remaining watchtowers, which does give a slight opportunity to Phoenix to go ahead and try and push forward here. But he's got no War Factory, no MCV, and is there actually a way where Phoenix is... Yeah, I guess Phoenix is pretty much out of this. He's got pretty much only a barracks, and now he just has to defend. No, he's got 2 racks, so this is pretty much do or die for Phoenix. He's got very little income, just 1 harvester left in this tip spike in the corner of the map. But if he's able to hold strong and clean up this bike buggy, then there is the potential that he could just push forward, because there's not a whole lot going on in the back end for Death Sentence. He doesn't have all that much of value up in the north. He's mostly centered right here, so this is an opportunity for Phoenix to push on forward and actually finally take this game one way or another. Purifying Flame is done. A couple of Black Hand squads mixed in with these Cabal units are going to be able to shred through quite a few of those infantry squads. And it looks like pretty much all of that bike buggy has been annihilated. I don't think I see any along the south part of the map, which means no real reinforcements going to be coming in, and this is still not a whole lot of forces here for Phoenix. He's starting to pump out a couple of more rocket squads. He may need to sell off one of these racks just so he can produce off of at least 1 structure at a time. And Titans, if they're able to get in close with these harvesters and get some crushes, that could really shut down any opportunity for the comeback for Death Sentence, as he is going to be going for the crush. 1 harvester going down, another one narrowly escapes the crushing claws of that Titan. But yes, the crushes are good enough, and one way or another, Phoenix is actually making this work with hardly any units, with hardly anything going on. I mean, he's basically got a refinery and a couple of racks, which if those got taken out, then he would just be out of this game. And the MCV isn't going to be getting targeted down. It's on very low HP, but the last couple of structures getting sold off for those last couple of units. Can the APMO actually burn through all of these Cabal squads before the rockets actually tear through absolutely everything? Bike's going to be coming in. 1 Rax is already gone, so it's coming down to this Rax and the refinery. Just 4 Titans left, but the focus fire actually isn't very good from Death Sentence. He's trying to take down the buildings, which unfortunately isn't the only thing that he has to kill, but that does shut down all of the production, and now it's just down to rocket squads versus Titans pretty much. And these last couple of, well, fully heroic and fully elite rifleman squads from our Steel Talons players somehow, someway actually making enough damage happen to keep him alive. 2 Titans might remain in a couple of moments here. That last bike shot will kill off one of the Titans as these Black Hand squads nearly flame down that fully heroic rifleman squad. And somehow Phoenix is still in this. He's got barely any units left, and with no actually way to produce any units, it might actually be in the best interest of Phoenix to go around the long way. I'm not actually sure if that'll buy him enough time, because he does have to deal with flame units. And if Death Sentence realizes that there's only a refinery, he's just going to have to make a bum rush for it. He's got 1 squad out on the field, and somehow the harvesters, are they going to be enough? No, the Titans managed to crush them before they crush all of the rifleman squads. Some of these rifleman squads have a couple of units left, so they still have a reasonable amount of damage output, and those guys escaped by about the skin of their teeth, hardly able to actually stay alive and just go for the crush. That's a fully heroic Titan that has now been earned through blood and sweat and war by Phoenix. He just has to deal with this Confessor Cabal squad, and I guess he's got like slightly more DPS with 2 Titans, but of course once those flame units get to work on that refinery, they're going to be making a relatively short work of it in comparison to, you know, how just a Cabal squad would do. But Rifleman squads, killing them off is nice, but the main job of the Rifleman squad is to kill off like rocket squads that the Titans can't quite deal with, and in this case, 1 fully heroic Titan is actually putting out some pretty good damage. This is a surprisingly close race, as we do have the refinery of the GDI getting dangerously close, but the Titans, the power of the Steel Talons, will carry Phoenix through into a victory on Vista Valley in a relatively short game, but action-packed pretty much front to back, as Death Sentence narrowly loses. And I am Phoenix, aka Steve Nash, will end up taking this game one way or another. And what a game to watch, I guess. I was going to say start off with, but I'm not actually starting anything off with it, as this is now the end of this game. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you all very much for watching. I just wanted to jump in, cast a couple of games before I head off on kind of a holiday for a couple of weeks. Anyways, that will do it. This is Sybert, signing out.